Every year, on February 2nd, millions of people gather in the small town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to watch a rodent predict the weather. Yes, you heard that right. A groundhog. But why? How did a marmot become the star of a centuries-old tradition? Is there really something magical about this furry little creature's shadow? In today's video, we're diving deep into the fascinating origins and history of Groundhog Day. So grab your winter coat, and let's see if we're in for 6 more weeks of winter, or if spring is just around the corner. Before we even get to the groundhog, let's rewind the clock. To understand how this quirky tradition came about, we need to look at its roots. And those roots stretch all the way back to ancient Europe. Groundhog Day has its origins in an old European tradition called Candlemas, which dates back to the 4th century. This Christian holiday was meant to mark the halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. In short, it was a day to check on the state of winter, to see whether or not it was nearly over. The name Candlemas comes from the tradition of blessing candles to ward off the remaining cold and dark days of winter. But as with many holidays, different cultures put their own spin on things. For example, the Germans had a superstition that if the sun shone on Candlemas, it meant that the weather would be bad for another 6 weeks. They believed that animals, like hedgehogs, could predict the weather based on their behavior. So what do hedgehogs have to do with groundhogs? Well, the German settlers who arrived in America brought their weather-predicting tradition with them. But here's the catch. Hedgehogs weren't really native to North America. What they had in abundance, though, were groundhogs, and that's when the tradition began to evolve. Fast forward to 1887, and we find ourselves in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, a small town nestled in the heart of the United States. This is where the modern version of Groundhog Day as we know it today began. Legend has it that on February 2nd, 1887, a group of local businessmen decided to make their weather-predicting tradition official. They declared that Punxsutawney would be the home of the world's most famous groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil. And so, the first official Groundhog Day celebration was born. On that fateful day, Phil's prediction wasn't just a fun idea, it became a symbol of hope, or maybe dread, depending on how you looked at it. According to tradition, if Phil saw his shadow, it meant 6 more weeks of winter. If he didn't, we could expect an early spring. Simple, right? But it wasn't just about the weather. The event quickly became a spectacle, drawing crowds of people, all eager to see if the groundhog was a true soothsayer. Okay, let's talk science for a second. Groundhog Day might be fun and quirky, but is there any truth to Phil's predictions? Well, sort of. But not really. Groundhogs, or woodchucks, hibernate during the winter months, and when they emerge from their burrows in early February, it's not because they've been secretly studying meteorology. They simply wake up due to the changing temperature. That said, it's been found that the success rate of Phil's predictions is, well, let's just say it's not great. A study by the Stormfax Almanac found that, on average, Phil is correct only about 39% of the time. So, don't necessarily plan your wardrobe around his predictions. But that's part of the charm. Groundhog Day isn't about being a perfect meteorologist. It's about having a little fun with the unpredictability of nature. After all, if we could really predict the weather with certainty, we'd all be out of a job. So why has Groundhog Day become such a big deal, despite its questionable accuracy? Well, part of it is because it's the perfect mix of fun, tradition, and hope. After all, by February, most of us are over winter, and we're just ready for spring. So, whether Phil's prediction is right or wrong, it's something we can look forward to. It's a moment where we celebrate the changing of seasons and the possibility of new beginnings. Another reason people love the holiday? It's a quirky tradition that brings communities together. Punxsutawney Phil isn't just a weather predictor. He's a symbol of small-town pride, a connection to the past, and a reason for people to come together and celebrate. Groundhog Day is a reminder that, even in a world dominated by technology and science, there's still room for a little bit of magic and whimsy. Groundhog Day hasn't just stuck in our calendars, it's made its way into pop culture too. And you can thank the 1993 classic film, Groundhog Day, for that. Starring Bill Murray, the film follows a cynical weatherman who finds himself trapped in a time loop, forced to relive the same day, Groundhog Day, over and over again. While the movie has nothing to do with the actual holiday itself, it's become synonymous with the day. In fact, Groundhog Day has turned into a cultural phenomenon, with people using the term Groundhog Day to describe situations where they feel stuck in repetitive or seemingly never-ending circumstances. The film's message of personal growth, change, and redemption has made it a timeless classic, with many seeing it as more than just a quirky comedy. It's about breaking free from monotony and embracing the opportunity for transformation. And isn't that what Groundhog Day is really about? Leaving winter behind and welcoming a new season of possibility? You might think that Punxsutawney is the only place where Groundhog Day is celebrated, but actually, people around the world have their own traditions related to weather forecasting by animals. In Germany, they still use hedgehogs for their weather predictions. In the United Kingdom, there's an old superstition that if the sun shines on St. Swithin's Day, it predicts 40 more days of rain. In Canada, they have Wyarton Willie, another groundhog who also gets his turn at predicting the weather. It's safe to say that animals have had a long history of playing weather forecasters. Groundhogs just happen to be the most famous ones in North America. So, whether or not you believe in Phil's weather predictions, Groundhog Day is a fun and light-hearted tradition that brings people together, celebrates change, and reminds us that winter doesn't last forever. It's a quirky celebration of hope, a time to look forward to the warmer days ahead. And let's face it, we could all use a little more optimism during the cold, gray days of winter. If you enjoyed learning about the fascinating history of Groundhog Day, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to History of Humans. And let us know in the comments, do you believe in Punxsutawney Phil's prediction? Or do you think he's just an overrated rodent? See you next time, when we uncover more of the quirky stories that make history so entertaining.